Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Let the Minutes Reflect. My name is Shawn Hardie, and thank you for tuning in today. And today's guest is my good friend of over 20 years. She is I forgot your title again because it just changed, but she's kind of a big deal. But your official title is
I'm the US Multicultural Marketing Lead at Google for our device and services business.
Natasha Aarons. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you. I hate your t-shirt.
Wait, what's wrong with my t-shirt?
It says beat Georgetown. I will never, even though we're not in the same conference anymore, there would always be like a lot of hate for Syracuse.
Well, as a Syracuse alum, I will tell you kindly to go to hell. And I'm only wearing this T-shirt because it's laundry day. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Uh, but thank you for being a good sport. I can change it if you want me to.
No, you don't have to change. It's all good.
Okay. All right. So, first, let's break the ice. Even though I've known you for 20 years, let's be a little bit informal before we get more formal. Do you remember the story of how we met?
You reminded me of the story of how we met.
Yes.
I
Full.
remember your circle by prank calling as a teenager. I love that was my hobby. But you can go ahead because you have a very clear memory of how we met that I totally forgot about.
Okay. So all right. I had a friend, now, and I will withhold names to protect the innocent and the not so innocent.
And the married.
And I mean, listen, this is 20 years ago. Who cares? Like, but
Exactly.
whatever.
No, some people care.
That's true. So we all met. So you guys had. So I had. I. How do I say this? Okay. We were all this big group of people. Although I hadn't met y'all officially yet because I was in school, but my other friends had met you guys because we had a friend that lived in Rockland County at the time who was cousins of one of my friends, what have you. So one of your friends was dating one of my friends. That relationship, for whatever reason, did not work out. And one of my friends, whose name shall be withheld, decided to pursue one of your friends. However, this new friend was friends with his ex. Why he thought this could work, I don't know, but whatever. So word got out about this sometime in the summer of earlier this century. Let's just put it that way. It was July. Everyone was home from school, and I'm living at home. I don't even have a cell phone at the time. That's how long ago this was. And my phone rings, and I'm like, "Hello," and you're like, "Hey, Shawn, it's Tasha." By the way, I call her Tasha because I've known her that long. You can't. Um, so he's like, "Hey, it's Tasha." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Where are you? You're at home?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "All right, we're coming to go find so and so and confront him about this foolishness." And I said, "Okay." So you guys drove down from Rockland County to the
And
Bronx.
and you were down because you knew it was foolishness.
Yes, it was foolishness. You're like, yes, let the minutes reflect that I did not object to you guys in any way, shape, or form because I was like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. So it was his ex girlfriend, and her friend, and we hopped in the car, and you called them, and you're like, "Hey, where are you guys?" And they're like, "We're here." We're like, "Don't move." And we drove over there, and they were gone. And you're like, "Where are you now?" They're like, "Oh, we're at the pizza store or something." And we drove over there, and we bounced around, and then we finally ended up in Co-op City and hopped out, and the confrontation happened, and that's where the story will end. Let the minutes reflect that no violent conduct was taken part of by anybody, especially Natasha Aarons.
Sorry.
So,
Never.
but that is how I met Natasha Aarons. And 20 something years later, here we are.
Here we are.
So,
Things were fun back then. Damn, like I haven't had a drive-by in 20 years.
so like I said, we're in college at the time. I know that you ended up getting an internship at Bad Boy, which is very
Mhm.
prestigious and very hard to get. But what inspired you to go into music? Because you weren't studying music or anything like that in college, in undergrad at Georgetown.
No, I didn't even know that you can have an actual career in music. If you went to college, you can have a career in music. I didn't even understand what that looked like for me, for a person like me. I'm first generation Jamaican, like
Bullet, 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 bullet.
first generation Jamaican American. And my parents, like my siblings weren't born in this country, right? So like, what do you mean you're going to pursue a career in like something that's not like my father would say math and science and your law school or your doctor? Like it didn't even it was not in the realm of possibility for me. So I really gravitated towards, I was really good at math. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm good at math. Let me do finance and business. And this is like, I started college in 1999, right? So like the stock market was booming. A career in investment banking was like, it was the sexy thing to do. So that's what I pursued. I liked numbers. I wanted to study business. So I did that. I went to Georgetown University, McDonough School of Business, and I was a double major in finance and international business, and I had a minor in Japanese. And the Japanese thing is kind of random. I started taking it as a hobby in high school and just stayed on with it just because I thought it was just cool and another way to just like stand out and differentiate myself. So I did that, and I like interned I have a very traditional path in college. Like I interned at a consumer bank, and it wasn't until my junior year I studied abroad in Japan. And because of the Japanese academic calendar, me studying abroad would prevent me from interning the junior year, which is the big year to intern, because 90% of those internships turn into full-time jobs.
I wish someone had told me that when I was a junior in college, but that's neither here nor there. Continue.
Like, you figured it out. But I forgoed that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to you can't like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, when am I going to ever have a chance to do this? And then I also thought that me doing that would differentiate myself from the pool of other applicants. I was wrong. But anyway, so while I was in Japan, I celebrated my 21st birthday. And for my 21st birthday, my favorite rapper was in town in Tokyo. So a friend, Jay-Z, this is pre-Beyonce Jay-Z. I think they had maybe just started dating. So he was still doing like standing room only venues back then. This is the Blueprint 1 album. And so I'm like the only Black person in this like standing room venue in Tokyo. And watching the fans like react to Jay-Z and sing his lyrics word for word was like, it did something to me. It was like super powerful. I had this like tingly feeling. It's almost like the feeling that you have when I don't believe in love at first sight, but it's almost that tingly feeling that you have when you see the person that you love and get butterflies. And I'm like, well, what is this? And I was like, it hit something there. It hit a nerve. And so to me, I'm like, I don't know what this is like, but I have to do this. Whatever job I can do to work in music and bring people this level of joy, I have to do, period. So I'm like, all right. So I go back to school and I'm like, well, I've been working towards a job in finance. So I still did the whole traditional route. The companies come on campus and then like you're recruiting with them. Mm-hmm. And I only received one final interview offer, and I flew to New York and I did the whole investment banking recruiting day. And in like one of my interviews, like towards the end of the day, because I was tired and I'm like, this is boring. This is a long day. I got on a flight 6 a.m. from DC to get here to do. And I was like, and I'm not feeling it. And so I kind of did one of one of those when you just kind of half fall asleep a little bit in the middle of the interview. And I was like, oh shit, I could curse, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're a grown up.
I was like, oh shit. Like, did that guy just see me kind of nod? Like, I'm like, that to me was a sign, like, this is not for me. I think that was this is not for me. Like, I saw, when I went to the office, I saw people like sleeping under their desk. And this is, again, no shade to anyone who did go the investment banking path, but it was not for me. And I was getting very clear it wasn't for me. So I had no job, right? Like during this recruiting process, like I had no job. And if anyone who knows me, and I think Shawn, you know me, I am type A. I am usually like, I'm like straight A student. Like I am used to whatever I work hard for, I deliver, I get it done. And so for me, it was like, that like broke my existence as a person, as like as a high achiever. Is like, wait, so I didn't get a job. I came to school, I did all this, and I didn't get a job. But it was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it allowed me to really like activate my hustle and really, really pursue what I wanted. And so the way and how I got the internship at Bad Boy, I was home. I was in New York for spring break. I was a broke college student. I didn't go anywhere for spring break. Like, what is that? So I was home for spring break, and I was visiting a friend who was at Hofstra University, my best friend, and we drove into the city. And as we're driving into the city, we hear, back then he was called Puff Daddy Diddy Puffy, whatever you want to call him, whatever name is Puffy back then. Puff was on the radio with Funkmaster Flex, and he was like, "Happy birthday to my man Harve Pierre," and I just retained that information. I was like, okay, and I knew who Harve Pierre was because at the time the show Making the Band was on, and it was super. It was Making the Band, the show on MTV about like Puff creating this like mega group. So I used to love that show and watch it all the time. So Harve Pierre was his head of A&R. And so he just happened to shout him out on the radio. We go into the city and we coincidentally just end up at Justin's restaurant to eat dinner. We're there, like,
And for those who don't know, that was, I don't think it's still there anymore, but that
it's
was
gone.
that was Puff's Daddy's restaurant in Midtown on like 21st
It
Street or
was
something like that.
23rd Street. Yep.
23rd, okay.
And it used to be popping back in the day.
Yeah,
So like it was great. So we went there and then we just happened across the street. There was a party. So we get into the party. Like when I was like 21, I was like so bold and like, so we talk our way into the party. And in the party, I see none other than Harve Pierre. So I was like, yo, this is serendipitous. I'm like, this is fate. I literally said to my friend Ketley, I was like, follow that first. Let's go follow that first. So he was in VIP, talked our way into VIP. I don't even know what I said. And I literally went up to him and was like, my name is Natasha. I go to Georgetown. I would love to work for you, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, okay, cool. Like, just here's my number. Here's my office number. Call me tomorrow. And I was like, yo, I made it. Like, I went back, like, again, look, I didn't have a cell phone at the time, or maybe I did. I think I did.
you definitely did because you were chasing around my friend with a cell phone.
Okay, I had a cell phone. So we called on our way back home, like, we memorized the number, called it, and I was like, oh, it's really his number. And I called it, that number. I'm thinking, okay, I made it. I'm going to call. So I was so naive and young, right? So I was like, I'm going to call tomorrow. I'm going to give him my resume and I'm going to get a job. Absolutely not. I called every day for 5 months. And that is how I got an internship. Every single day for 5 months until his assistant answered. And then she was like, oh, come in tomorrow, come in this day. And I was like, cool. And then that day ended up being the New York City blackout of 2003. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So, but then I'm like, okay, after the phone lines got back up, after the New York City blackout, I kept calling. She answered. I went in the next day and he hired me for an internship. And so that's the one thing when everyone asked me, like, how do you get started in music? I was like, it was a hustle and you have to be tenacious. And I didn't take no for an answer. I didn't take like the blackout that was like, oh, this is a side program. No, like I kept hustling and that's how I got my career started, really.
That's crazy. I never knew that. You called him every day for 5 months?
For 5 months. I didn't have a job. Like, what was I going to do? I didn't have a job. So,
but I'm sure you got discouraged. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, after, like, oh, I don't know, month 3, you're like, man, this is bullshit. Like, I'm, like, did you?
Of course.
So what kept you going?
I didn't have a job. It was that fire in my belly. Like, I ended up going home and thank God, like, I had my mom, like I could have come home and I had a home to live in and I could, but I had to get a part-time job in the mall with a degree from Georgetown because I came home and I did not have a job. So I had to figure it out. And so that's what kept me going is like, it was just this burning passion and desire. I was like, I don't wake up 50, 60 years old and be like, I wish I would have done that. So I just kept going and I didn't have any other options. So.
That's what's up. So the Bad Boy internship is infamous because it is 40 hours a week, unpaid.
Actually,
And
actually, if
oh,
you pay paid, it's pretty much unpaid, but you get like $40 at the end of the week. That was your
well, you know what? $40 for a 21-year-old is, it was like, I got $40. All right, um, so basically it's unpaid.
mm-hmm.
So now you're 21. No,
22.
you're 22 years old. You're at Bad Boy, which is arguably the hottest hip hop label in the world at the time. Like, how was the experience working at Bad Boy?
It was amazing. And I told him, I was like, all I need is my toe in the door and I'm going to make it work. There's this video that I keep seeing going around that was from that time with Puff where he's on the phone and I guess he was calling like a video network. I think it was Video Network. So it was like BET or MTV where he's calling to get what was called a video ad. That's like my future life I ended up doing. And I literally was standing. And so everyone shows this and he's like, everything I want, I have to get. Like, and everyone like posts that. And I was like, yo, I was literally sitting outside the office as that was happening. Like that was the office. And those kind of things used to happen all the time. And so just being around someone who was just a brilliant black man, young, brilliant black man. Like I think at the time, Puff had to have been like maybe 35. And to see everything that he had been building since he was like 19, 20 years old, it was amazing to see. And to me being there, like you were always taught, like you would just get stuff thrown at you just to see if you would
Sink or swim?
sink or swim. Sink or swim.
Mm-hmm.
And you swam. If you was going to make it, you had to swim. And so being there has given me like the utmost confidence and belief that I literally can, whatever I put my mind to, I can do. And so, and it just like, it bred hustlers. Like if you stayed there, if you had the opportunity to move from intern to full-time, you were official. And then if you could stay there, you were extra official. When I look back on like some of my peers and the things that they're doing, like they're doing amazing because Bad Boy was a boot camp for excellence. It was crazy. It was all over. It was nuts, but it was a boot camp for excellence and just like getting shit done. And so for me, I was like, again, like I said, I was like, I handle jobs. So I'm like, I need to make this work. So I went from intern to junior assistant in about like 3-4 months. And then from junior assistant to product manager, all of that like in a span of a year. So it was awesome. Like I've never worked so hard in my life, but it was so rewarding. It was rewarding.
So, did Puff ever yell at you? That
No, I not yell at like, but some like interesting talks, or he would like look like he has this look when you're like on some bullshit, and I probably was on some bullshit, but yes, or he said some very interesting. I remember I'll tell a funny story. We somehow I had inherited New Edition as my group. Um, I love New Edition, but I don't think like anybody else wanted to deal with it. I was the only one that could deal with them. I literally was the only one that could deal with them. So I used to be on the road with New Edition. Like I have a whole story of being like Bobby Brown wasn't part of the group, but I have a story like I got like put in a headlock by Bobby Brown on some place like this. There's some crazy stuff, but I mean I absolutely adored working with New Edition. And there was sometimes they were at a standstill. They were like in an argument with the label and stuff, like most artists are. And they didn't want to do stuff. They didn't want to go on their promo run. And we're in the meeting, we're in our staff meeting. I'm telling him, yo, like, I don't know what else to do. We got all of this signed up and they don't want to do it. And he was like, all right, but baby girl. So sometimes you just have to like, you. And I was like, okay, cool. It was, got it. Yeah. So,
oh my goodness. Oh, Come on in. So as I told you before we started recording, my son was going to make an appearance. He just came home
Aw.
from school. That's my friend Natasha. Say hi,
Hi.
Natasha.
Hi, Natasha.
Oh, how old is he now?
He will be 5 in March.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yes.
wow, already.
Yep. Time
He's a big
flies.
boy.
Time flies. So it's funny because someone else that we both know, Jason Wiley, he was an
Hmm.
intern at the same time as
We
you.
were in the same class. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think about where he is now and how successful he is, and I mean, not it makes sense because, like you said, like bad boys sink or swim, and a lot of people can't swim. A lot of people can't swim; they end up sinking. So you were at Bad Boy for a while. So how
Mhm.
did you get so how really quickly? So did you get the job at the end of the internship, or you had to wait a few months?
Oh, there wasn't anything formal. It wasn't like, oh, you're gonna do this internship and then it's not, that's not how, there was nothing formal about the internship process at Bad Boy. Because there were people who ended up interning for years, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, it's a 3 to 6 month internship program. No, it's like it's until someone wants to hire you, until this like, or it's done. So I again, it wasn't formal. Like if you go to work at NBC and you're like, this semester you intern, not at all. Like, so I interned. It ended up being 4 months, 3 months. I started in September and then I was hired in like January. So it ended up being like 3, 4 months before I was actually hired. And there's other people who did longer than that or it didn't. Again, it wasn't formal, but for me it was like 3, 4 months because I busted my tail and my boss got promoted, so there was an opportunity for him to bring me on as a full-time employee. And I wasn't making any money, like my first job. Like, let me tell you, and this is something that I tell young people that I mentor who are so eager to just out the break, especially in passion careers, make money. And I'm like, I've always, and I tell this to people. Someone told me this a long time ago. You learn in your 20s and you earn in your 30s. And if you have the luxury of doing that, for me, the money will come, especially with like passion jobs, like jobs that don't really pay, but they're going to pay off an experience and you're able to get someone else. That first job is you might not make 6 figures. The chances of you making 6 figures in your first job, unless you want to go to a more traditional job. But that is what you're going to be dealing with a passion job. So I think I always say this to young people who I mentor or wherever I'm speaking is like, you have to be real serious about, you have to like have a true, real talk with yourself. And it's like, if I want to pursue this, the money has to be secondary. That's just real talk. Or if not, go do something more traditional where you're going to get that money, but you might not be fulfilled. So it's about, you have to make the decision. But I say, and I truly believe, the money comes. And like, I'm saying that now, one who makes a really good living. I did not make shit from my first job. And now I'm good.
You're good. You Gucci.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's true. Like I wish I'd known that as well. I mean, I wish. I mean, I kind of knew that because like when I first started, I wanted to be a newspaper reporter, and so I
Mhm.
knew, I was like, well, listen, you're not going to make any money for like a while. So like I accepted that. But the problem is I had hung out with a lot of people who like looking back when they didn't make that much money out of school, but they were making 20, 30 grand more than I was off the
Yeah.
rip, and it's like, yo, what am I doing? Am I doing this? Like, what am I doing something wrong?
Mhm.
My and for those who are listening on podcast, my son is here and he's about to throw a hula hoop over my ring light. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. So you worked at Bad Boy. You worked at Jive.
Mhm.
You ended up going to grad school at
Mhm.
Northwestern. What was and you worked at Verizon. What was the transition like from and now actually you were at Verizon, but now when you went to Google, you started off head of music industry and marketing. What was the transition like working from the label side to the marketing
Mhm.
side?
So just going back, just even why I transitioned from the label, it was like, again, it came to this. I always have these moments in my career where I have these like inflection points when I have to pivot and shift. So the reason why I went to business school, particularly at that time, was because I didn't have a job.
Again,
Again,
you'd be
right?
surprised how much things happen in life when because like you know what, I need a job.
I didn't have a job. So I ended up, along with millions of Americans, in 2009, I got laid off. And so just to set the scene of what was happening during that time, one, it was like Obama was elected president and I went to like inauguration and I came back the week after and I lost my job. So, there was the economic downturn in general in the US. And then in the music industry had been completely disrupted by the tech industry. And so some of that, I didn't really see the recession part coming, but some of the music industry needing to change, I saw coming from being on my end. And this is one of the things with me as just like a curious person, as a marketer, it's like I'm constantly paying attention to the trends that are happening and how people are consuming stuff and how consumers are consuming stuff. So consumers were, it was the unbundling of the album happened while I was working at Jive. My role at Jive was music video promotions and marketing. So I worked with the video networks like MTV and BET, and my role was to ensure our artists were like, we're using that as a channel to promote our artists. So whether that's like, getting them on the award shows and their performances, or just having the videos play and then getting it out on the countdown on like 106 in Park, that was my job. But if you think about how that was YouTube just started popping up then. And the labels had not embraced technology really yet. They had not embraced YouTube at the time. But that's where consumers were consuming their content. They were no longer waiting at home to watch a video. They're like, nah, I want to watch it on demand when I want to. So it was like a perfect storm of stuff happening that really crippled the music industry. And a number of people got laid off, including me. And so even before I got laid off, I started thinking, I'm like, oh, let me, I could get tuition reimbursement working at Sony, Jive, Sony Music. So let me start thinking about going to business school. I looked at like the part-time program at NYU. I literally was thinking about it, but I didn't have time with just like my job to even pursue that. And I was like, I don't even know how I would even have time to, like, I traveled so much. I didn't know if I would have time to like do class 3 times a week. So again, it was something that was meant for me. The seed was there, but it was meant to be because I ended up losing my job. And so I was like, great, the perfect time for me to go hide out, because it's bad economy, best place to hide out in a bad economy is school. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I applied to a number of business schools, but Kellogg Northwestern was my number one school because it was such an amazing marketing program. And I knew that in order for me to pivot into, like, I knew I wanted to go into tech because that's the future of entertainment. I knew that I had to go to business school to bridge the gap between my experience in music with with what my future goals were. And again, by the way, because of the music business have been so, like, the business model have been decimated, people aren't going to be like, oh yeah, you come to the music industry, come over here and go lead these marketing things. It's like, no, we value your experience, but are you strategic? Right. And so that's why I went back to business school, to really shore up that strategy, expand my network, and to be able to pivot into a career in tech. And that's what I ended up doing. So I interned at Apple between my first and second year of business school. And then I went to Verizon specifically because mobile was fueling all this consumption. So I was like, let me go understand that. And then also Verizon is like one of the biggest advertisers, like a billion plus, media budget. So I'm like, they're a big advertiser. Let me go learn that, like a more traditional side of like marketing and advertising, where what I did in the music side was more like culture and taste. And so just marrying that strategic thinking with like the culture and taste part, like I was like, okay, I'm going to be really now I'm like, I'm going to really stand out here, because you often don't find people who have, both sides.
Okay. That makes sense. I wish I had known. No, I did know you in 2009. I wish I'd asked you this. Like, I should have went to grad school because, well, it was funny at the time. I remember because so similar. I had started. I had a career change myself. I moved away from journalism, and I started working in advertising for MEC. And that was January 2008, and that September, the stock market fell out, and Bear Stearns was $2 trading at $2 a share, and everyone I knew was like going to grad school, and I was like, ha, clowns. Well, there's gonna be no jobs when you come out of grad school. Ha 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 ha. Turns out I was wrong.
The
But
economy is cyclical. If you know
yeah,
the waves is every 3 to 4 years. So that's what I was like. I should be good.
yeah. All right, so now we're going to pivot, and we're going to. So usually I do a section called rapid fire, where I just ask rapid fire questions. But now I finally have a name for this segment. It's called 21 questions because I'm going to ask you 21 questions. So it's literally just bang,
Okay.
either or. Okay. So first we're going to start in music. Hot 97 or Power 105.1
Right now, which year? Now?
right now.
Power 105.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, because the Breakfast Club.
Man, that's true. Cardi or Nicki?
Cardi.
Cardi or Meg?
Cardi.
Beanie or Bounty?
Oh, that's hard.
You thought this was gonna be a layup?
That one's hard, but I would say Beanie. I would say Beanie.
Yeah. Drake or Kanye?
Drake.
B-Day or Lemonade?
DJ.
I'm actually surprised you said that. I actually think B-Day is Beyonce's best album.
Yeah, I could listen to E-Day continuously. Lemonade, I'd only listen to a couple of songs. Like, I couldn't listen to the whole album.
Reasonable Doubt or The Blueprint?
Reasonable Doubt.
All right, let's shift gears to lifestyle. Vodka or tequila?
Tequila.
Moet or Voo?
Boo.
Jerk chicken or oxtail?
Oh, the oxtail. That's hard. Oxtail.
Miami or Vegas?
Miami.
I knew you were gonna say Miami. You have Miami. I have a.
I hate Vegas. Like, I can't do more than like 36 hours in Vegas.
No one could do more than listen, I was in Vegas for CES last year. I got there on Sunday night, which was a mistake, because I wanted to go to a thing. I wanted to go to a panel Monday morning, but that was my first time, so that's when I learned. Everyone was like, "No, you don't get to CES Sunday. You get there Tuesday." So, and I was scheduled to leave like Thursday night. I woke up Thursday morning. I was like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And I called American Airlines, and I was like, I have a flight at 9 p.m. Can I get on the next flight out of here? And they were like, there's the next flight. There's a flight at 11 a.m., but you have to transfer in Charlotte. I was like, I don't care. Put me on it. And
I try to only go to Vegas. Like, I go once a year, usually for work for the Latin Grammys, and but I'm like in and out. And sometimes I won't even go to the show because I want to go home.
Okay. But I could tell that you're a Miami person.
Miami.
Like, after the show, I'll explain to you the difference between Miami people and Vegas people. Like, there's a difference, but I'll explain it. Louis or Fendi?
Louis.
Living Single or A Different World?
Oh, that's hard. Different world, though.
The Wire or The Sopranos?
The Wire.
The Fresh Prince or Martin?
Martin.
Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron.
Would you rather go to the Super Bowl or Game 7 of the NBA Finals?
Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
You sound like you've been to one before, the way you answer.
No. I've been to like all-star games. I've been to like NFL playoff games, but I've never been to Game 7 of the finals, especially if it's like tied up. Yeah, I will go there.
Game of Thrones or Westworld?
I've never seen Westworld. Game of Thrones all day.
That makes two of us. I'm probably not going to bother. Will Smith or Jamie Foxx?
Will Smith.
Love Jones or Love and Basketball?
Love and Basketball.
You wanted to say Love Jones.
Love and Basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was listening to someone the other day. They were saying that Love Jones actually doesn't age well at all if you go back and watch it. It's like the movie that everyone loved of our generation because we're all like 19, 20, 21 and stupid and like, oh, spoken word and all
I
right. So
actually hate spoken word. I cannot stand it. I'm sorry. I don't enjoy a poem.
no, I know, I understand.
I'm not that deep.
So earlier you said that one of the reasons why you wanted to go to grad school is because you saw how tech was disrupting the music industry.
Hmm.
As a as a veteran of the music industry and multiple sides, what do you see is the future of music?
I think you're going to continue to see tech being core to like how people, obviously it's how people are consuming it, but it's also how artists are going to be using marketing. They're leveraging tech to use to get to consumers. So artists and like labels, you're already seeing it. Like for instance, Fortnite.
Hmm.
Like the gaming industry is going to be huge for music, just from a licensing perspective and consumer engagement perspective. For what Fortnite did with Travis Scott during like the initial phases of quarantine blew my mind. And I think like his team, like now everybody wants to like emulate it and do it or whatever. And like, but his team, they're on some other level when it comes to how they think about like leveraging tech in their marketing. So I think what like Twitch is doing, Fortnite for sure is doing. So the gaming industry is the next wave for music, and I think if anyone in music doesn't understand the gaming industry or gamers, they need to get on it ASAP.
What about the what about podcasts? Because like podcasting is, even though it's been around for a while, it's
Mhm.
now you see the major music players are taking it in seriously. Like Spotify is just buying up like every podcast platform. Like they're buying Gimlet and they acquire the Ringer. Obviously, um, Apple's doing big things with it. Like
Yep.
how do you
Amazon too.
Amazon? Absolutely. If I hear that DJ Khaled
Hmm.
commercial one more time, will podcasts disrupt music? Will it run alongside music? Will music and will it be embraced?
My personal opinion, I think it's going to run alongside music. I don't know if podcasting can necessarily disrupt music because there's always an element of like, rights and licensing. And so I don't think it's going to disrupt music. I think when you see at companies like Spotify, whose their bread and butter has been music, but that is because of all the licensing and rights you have to pay out, they were not profitable. So they have to look towards adding in podcasting to diversify their business model. Because if your business model is just music, it's not going to be profitable.
It makes sense. So funny you say that about licensing. Excuse me. I listened to, I remember listening to Joe Budden saying years ago, maybe like 1 to 2 years ago, that like podcasters should have publishing because
Mm,
part of the reason, like you said, Spotify began, acquiring podcast platforms, what have you, podcast creators, is because hey, it costs me X amount to pay the label for you to play
yep.
this 4 minute song, but it costs me nothing for me to
Cool.
play
Yep.
this
Yep. Hmm.
45-minute podcast, which is going to keep you in my platform for an hour. Do you ever see podcasters? And obviously, this is not going to happen with little guys like me. This is going to be like the Joe Rogans and the Joe Buttons and the big and the do you see them saying like, what, like, hey Apple, hey Spotify, can you compensate us for these plays? Do you see that business model changing? Or do you think it's going to stay the same?
Oh, it very well might, but like Joe Rogan got a bag from Spotify. Um, the Prince Harry and Meghan got a bag from Spotify. So I think you're seeing it. They're starting to get the investment up front, kind of like in the traditional content acquisition model. But I think it might be interesting if you're going to start getting paid per. That might be even smarter for Spotify, actually. Like if you're not getting the upfront money, Like,
Yeah.
you're only going to get it if you get X amount of downloads or listens and stuff. So it might be an interesting model for them to consider. But yeah, they're giving out bags for talent to come to their platform. Definitely, like Amazon, again, with DJ Khaled, with Amazon doing, I'm sure that was a bag. But Joe Rogan got that, like Spotify, the Obama's got a crazy bag too. So I'm wondering how long that is gonna last.
Yeah.
And if they're gonna start seeing the metrics, if they're gonna start seeing ROI on that upfront investment, or if they're going to move towards more of a performance model. It's an interesting question.
What would you tell 21-year-old Natasha Aarons if you could?
You're doing a great job. Like, chill out. Pick your battles. And like, life is like, all the things that you worry about are going to figure themselves out.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that you're nominated as one of AdAge's 40 under 40. How did you do that?
Honestly, it is an honor. Okay. First of all, in my last year.
And when I say how did you do that, not like you're not capable of it. I mean, just like, how does that go? How does that come about?
I was shocked. When I got the email, because they reach out to you before you, obviously before they announce it. And so it was like 3 weeks before, and then you have to keep it on the wrap. And so when I got it, I like screamed and dropped my phone, and it was like early in the morning, and my boyfriend was like, what's the matter? I was like, what did you see? Like, what's wrong? And I was like, I got AdAge 40 under 40. I was like, why? Like, I thought it was a mistake. So like, when I tell you imposter syndrome is real, like, I was like, I think they sent this to me by mistake. Like, how in the world did I get this? And then I sat back and I'm like, no, I've been working so hard for so long. And not just working hard for so long, because I don't think that hard work equates impact. But I've been working hard and driving impact. And so when I was like, oh my God, no, I deserve this, right? And so it was crazy. I'm still like, can't believe it happened. And when people mention, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened last year. Oh my God. But it was a complete shock. I am very thankful for the accolade. And yeah, it still renders me speechless.
Congratulations on that. That's a big honor. And I mean, that's all I have. So is there anything you'd like to plug or promote? Give a shout out to anybody?
No, shout out to you for building this platform and inviting me. Thank you so much. I should hit you up for advice on this too. Because I've been wanting to do this for years. Start our own podcast, and it was like, well, what is it about? But I have decided, and I'm starting a podcast around people pursuing their career as passions. It's called the Passion Path Podcast. And I will be interviewing people who I know, who are some of my friends and some of the greatest leaders of today, just giving, not just young people, but anybody at any phase of your career, just the inspiration and the tools to pursue the career of your dreams.
Okay. Well, good luck to that. You know, my phone line is always open if you have questions. And last thing I will say is that this episode now happened literally because I was scrolling on LinkedIn and I saw that Revolt was doing a thing, and they were doing like a virtual conference, and they said you could sign up for a speaker. One of them is Natasha Aarons. I was like, and full disclosure, I hadn't spoken to Natasha in years, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? So I signed up, and it was like the week before Halloween, and I signed up, but of course, because I'm terrible at scheduling, that was at the same time that we were taking my son to Boo at the zoo. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna talk to Tasha on my phone while driving to the zoo. And then when I popped up, you're like, Shawn, you have my number. Why didn't you just call me? And I was like, no, because I thought you were gonna big time me. And literally, because like you like you worked at Bad Boy, you worked at Jive, you worked at Apple, like you are like doing big things at Google. I'm like, your time is very busy, so like I'm not gonna, and I haven't spoken to you in years, so I'm not gonna just text you out the blue like, hey, talk to me. I'm like, you know what, I actually wanted to talk to you to see all the cool stuff that you were doing,
Well,
and I get
you
to
could
do
hit me
it.
up. You know that.
Well, I didn't get a chance then because, like I said, my scheduling was bad. But this is the manifestation of that. So,
Mhm.
Natasha, I'm not gonna call you Natasha ever again. You're Tasha as far as I'm concerned. Natasha, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated, and best of luck in all your future endeavors.
Thanks, Shawn. You too.